Yeah. So if you guys can't understand, I got Tourette's, everyone. Yeah. The hearing impaired, I didn't say I like the Mets. I'd rather have Tourette's than like the Mets.
Hey everybody, it's Ben, episode 9 of the Tourette's podcast. And I want to start off by reading a couple comments from listeners, mainly questions and curiosities or requests for guidance that, maybe I'm not the best person to be addressing, so I'm going to read a couple of these, and if you, the listener, feel good about weighing in, please do. So we're starting off with kind of like a mailbag segment on the show. Here's a comment left on the show page at tourettespodcast.libsyn.com. It comes from Lisa Curtis Wenlent. I'm so sorry if I failed to pronounce your name correctly. Lisa lives in Melbourne, Australia. So Lisa has a comment tied to an episode we did recently where we talked about visualizations that accompany tics. Like, for example, when I do a certain stretching tic, I picture a piece of wood on a beach. And I have no idea what the connection is, what the tie is. And bear with me as I read this, because this visualization component, it's going to sound weird if you haven't experienced it or if you don't have much experience with the topic of Tourette Syndrome. Whether or not this is actually connected to it, I don't know. But there definitely is a lot of commonality between different people who have Tourette's and visualizing things along with their tics. Anyway, so Lisa, she says, "Hey Ben, my son has visualization tied to some tics. He has a jaw-opening tic that really bothers him, and in his mind he sees an arrow flying to a wall. When the arrow hits the wall, he has to open his jaw really forcefully, which hurts. So he now intervenes by pushing his fist into his lower jaw to slap the teeth together before the arrow hits the wall in his mind, which then makes the arrow fall down and prevents him from having to execute the jaw-opening tic. How cool is that? A tic that averts another tic. A visualization that leads to a tic, which is then interrupted through another movement that interferes with the visualization that causes the tic. Gosh, does that even make sense to anybody? Really, really cool topic. With barely anything on the link between tics and visualizations in the scientific literature. I am reading all the peer-reviewed journal articles on Tourette's, and textbook classifications do not mention any of this, although it may be far more common than assumed. There was also very little on internal tics in general in the TS literature, so visualizations may only be a part of this uncharted territory. Glad you have started this conversation." End quote. Yeah. Lisa, thanks for your comment. That's awesome. I really don't know. I mean, I thought I was the only person who did it. I thought I was the only person who did certain kinds of tics. And the more I talk to people through this podcast, the more I find out that what I'm doing is not individual. A lot of people have the same strange tics that I have. And the visualizations thing, I wasn't even really tying it to Tourette's, except for the fact that I definitely have visualizations that are tied to tics. I will picture certain things in my mind that are tied to tics. And I've encountered a lot of other people through this podcast who do the same thing. So I don't know, it was news to me. If anybody else wants to weigh in on visualizations, please do, because it feels like something kind of cool to document. So Lisa, thanks. That's awesome. You're sharing your experiences. If anyone has anything to add to that, or if you can relate or anything, send me an email at tourettespodcast@gmail.com, and I'll read the response on the show. So here's one I got in the inbox. It comes from Matt from Arkansas. He says, "Thanks, Ben, for everything you've done with the podcast. My 7-year-old son was officially diagnosed with TS this past December. Most of the time, it's mild, but he has had a couple of months this past year that were severe. The tics really bothered him and caused a lot of frustration. As far as my wife and I know, there isn't any history of TS in our families, so we don't really have anyone to go to about understanding the everyday struggles. We feel like we are finally seeing a good neurologist, but we're still feeling lost at times when deciding how to help my son, especially during the tough times. Hearing all the experiences from your podcast has really helped. I love the discussions around what others do to make their tics less awkward in the workplace and around friends. As a parent, those are things I want to help my son with in school and around his friends. During your interviews, can you ask for any advice to us parents that can help us guide our little ones? I would really appreciate it, and thanks again for creating such an awesome community." Matt from Arkansas. Thanks, Matt. Since I don't have kids, and since I've already recorded a good number of interviews for episodes ahead, I figured I would just put this one out there for anybody else listening to respond to. I know it may not be a universal experience, but if anybody listening has any advice for Matt on successfully navigating youth and the school atmosphere with Tourette's, weigh in. Send me an email, tourettespodcast@gmail.com, and I will forward your response to Matt. Again, it is all about community, so this kind of thing really helps. So again, I don't have kids, so my only qualification is just remembering back to my childhood. And I'll just say from that time period, at least once my teenage years hit, I let others' ignorance get the best of me. And I just straight up decided to hide the fact that I had Tourette's and basically strained my life trying to find ways to cover it up and mask my tics. And that really wasn't the right way to go. I mean, ideally, I guess I wish I had just been proud of it and owned it and made it so okay for me publicly that it would perhaps get boring for my peers to point out. It's like, yeah, I know I've got Tourette's. We've covered this. That kind of thing, because I wouldn't be scared of it. At least that's what I wish I had done. I know it's easy to say since I'm an adult now. I definitely remember how difficult it was, but it would be awesome to have a revolution of kids who were totally proud of the fact that they have something that makes them different from other people. And that difference can be a positive in a lot of ways. Okay, so this background drum beat is probably annoying the heck out of everybody, so let's get to the good part. On this episode, we've got Chris Fox. And this one's special because he was actually the first person to reach out to me for this podcast. The first Touretteer that I connected with after I put out the word that I wanted to do a podcast about it. And we did an interview, me and Chris, and you'll hear he's a quickly likable person, very relatable, especially if you remember what it was like being a kid with Tourette's, with tics that your peers picked up on and how things can figure into your adulthood. So we talked about his life and his often very public experiences with Tourette's, difficult experiences with less understanding members of society like employers. He's had a rough time with that in the past. There's been some bullying that's actually made headlines, but he's channeled all of that into motivational speaking and notably stand-up comedy. That's his passion. His comedy has brought him to newspaper coverage, and actually this is timely because today, as I speak, he was the subject of a story in the Suffolk County News in New York. It's a profile of his life with Tourette's and his time performing at actually pretty high-end comedy clubs like Caroline's. Chris also has a book out. We talk about that, but he told me right off the bat that he had a stroke a little while back, and that's affected his speech. No problem there. He's got a story to tell, and while the health conditions might, of course, be a dynamic in all of this, it's not stopping his story. So I'm going to shut up, and we're going to get right to Chris.
Oh, man, it's Chris Fox. I'm an author, inspirational speaker, and I have a website.
And so, I the first thing I learned about you is that you have a history doing stand-up. How did you get into comedy?
I know one passion I have is, I like making others laugh. And I saw that dream, and I Googled online, and I came across Linda Smith. She teaches a class, and I took her class, and I didn't know that she works at Caroline's on Broadway. And the first show, I packed that place out. I'll say over 40 people attended, and she's like, next Friday you coming out, or next Monday you coming out. So that was big. It's a great way to get a message out, and it's a great way to talk about Tourette's.
Yeah, so stand-up is a way for you to communicate your Tourette's and educate people? Because, I mean, by nature, stand-up comedy is always kind of a slant on reality, but it's also a great way to convey an idea and get people to listen in a different way. So have you been using stand-up as a tool to talk with people about it?
Yeah, some girl actually did a show for Craig Galton, the host of Boom Show. And, some girl approached me at the show, and she goes, I didn't know that about Tourette's. People think Tourette's is just vocal tics, right. Touching, repetitive. They don't know, but we'll have flaws, we'll have disabilities. I like to get up there and educate people and straight away at the same time,
Well, I'm curious, how do you specifically set it up and deliver Tourette's material to an audience?
Well, I took my true life. I try to the audience involved and my wife involved. I try to get people involved, and I try not to be original. I try to be a little different. Because I'm born Tourette's, and people don't know about Tourette's. We all suffer. We all have flaws. We all have disabilities. I don't want to let people know that we'll have some.
So let's rewind before your stand-up career, before adulthood. When did you learn that you had Tourette syndrome, and how old are you now?
Oh, I'm 41. I turned 41, I would say, last Thursday.
Oh, happy birthday.
And, oh, thanks, bud. And, no, I actually went to doctors years ago. Didn't know much about Tourette's. They pretty much went online, they Googled. No, they didn't know much about Tourette's. And I see a neurologist now, and he gave me some meds. There's no cure. I didn't know it's covered AD law, which is very powerful. I know that. Right now I'm dealing with a headache, and I can't really sleep at night, so I like that. And I try to spread awareness, Tourette, and I love make people laugh.
Mm-hmm.
So I do stand up on Broadway, Governor's Comedy Club, Mutual Comedy Club. I met a lot of famous people on my journey, like She Amazing, Jack Bates' daughter, Judah Freeland and 30 Walk with Tracy Morgan, some guy from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
I mean, Phantom Jersey Shore. It's all great people. And some guy said, you have a certain niche. I don't know what it is. And so maybe this is it. I don't know.
Have you run into other stand-up comedians who have Tourette's?
No. No one knows about Tourette's, what he would do. And actually, I was talking to Tim Yates, Colin Quentin's cousin. He has somewhere, he has disability also. And I was like, how can we talk about that, educate people? And he said, well, I'm not there yet. So, well, I know that we'll have some. So the reason why I never met someone at Tourette's. So when on stage, I'm spreading awareness of that,
Yeah. Well, do you remember what your earliest tics were? What was your first awareness of, of ticking and it being maybe apparent to other people? I mean, for me, I fluctuate. I have tics that come and go and they change over time. What's it been like for you and your tics?
Well, one of the tics I had was when I ran home, I just thought, I used to hit mailbox, and I cut my hand open, and my mom's like, what happened? And I was like, well, I was touching those mailboxes. So, when I play baseball, check my hat, doing weird things. I mean, I talk about that in my stand-up. And, right now I have a bad headache. It could be vocalized and vocalizations. So it's really bad. I try to spread awareness to Tourette's when I'm on stage. And, some girls said to me in the comedy class, people really like you because you relate to strong message. And you talk about who you are, people will relate to that. And, Tourette's is like no joke. We all suffer. And it's a great way to me make people laugh, educate people, and also spread awareness at the same time. What do you do on a daily basis? Yeah,
and being a kid with Tourette's too isn't a cakewalk. I mean, for me, it was getting picked on for being different, sometimes even fighting back physically because you're pushed to a snapping point. And then you've got problems that stem from being a misunderstood, angry kid. That's not everybody. That was my story. But what was it like for you growing up and maybe when other people noticed what your tics were or noticed that something was different about you?
Well, I wrote about that a book called How God Saved Me, My Spiritual Story. People didn't like Tourette's when I was in school. Basically, I made fun of, I got bullied, harassed. Teachers didn't really know. And I went to the principal or guidance counselor, they pretty much thought it was a nuisance, didn't know much about Tourette's. So instead of educating people, whether parents and all that, they just basically, don't want to do me. And it was hard,
Yeah. I had similar experiences. That kind of thing impacts the adult that you're going to be. Did that hold true for you?
Well, yeah, when I played baseball, like my size moved in, and when I was doing weird things with Tourette's that bad, they would even move in quicker, and they know I had a little pop, so I hit over the heads. It played a big role, growing up. Because people didn't know my Tourette's. So, right. Me being very competitive and being very athletic, I did my best to play baseball and hockey and all that. And now I do comedy and an author also,
When you do comedy, so for me, if I'm doing something that I really enjoy and I kind of get in the zone of doing, then I find that I don't really tic as much. I find myself more focused and with something that holds my attention. Do you tic when you're doing stand-up?
Actually, someone brought to my attention, you don't really have Tourette's on stage or tic on stage. They said, give me an hour up here, or 50 minutes or whatever. I'll tic a lot. So I hold it for, I would say, 10 minutes, maybe sometimes no. But now I'm dealing with a bit hectic, so I took a little time off, from like comedy to get better. And I know that we all have something until I see all that,
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
Well, let me know if this is too personal or none of my business, but, have you gone through medications to control your tics? I certainly have. And today I'm not on any medication, even though it crosses my mind to give it a try again.
Yeah, I met this one doctor, this girl. She gave me numerous meds, and she said it's all trial and error, and nothing works, or anyone and get over it's all trial and error. And she ran numerous meds, probably like 20, and nothing helped. So she had about 2 weeks, trial lab. She really never adjusted the medication, like go up, down. She might say, well, it's not working. We'll give it the next thing. And right now, I'm just taking vitamins. And right now, I really, no cures. It's very hard. I'm trying to spread awareness, do comedy, do write a book, do my website, do all that. Try to spread awareness.
And also, if this is too personal, let me know. But, for me, and I know for everybody else, there's always that dynamic of a relationship and a significant other, and the early days where you don't know if that person is going to understand you, and like, when do I make that decision to reveal that I have Tourette's? Can you talk about that?
Well, actually, it's very hard. When I meet the girls, they don't really know about Tourette's. They think you're a freak or something. It was a while. When I'm talking to I'll say, girl, they know it's something not right. They see my headache and all that. Mm-hmm. They see me doing something nag, maybe screaming at profanity or something. They know something not right, but they don't really know about Tourette's. And a lot of girls, they did have problems. It don't have to be Tourette's. It could be not cancer, AIDS. It could be dealing with stuff. It could be stress, it could be depression, it could be ending, we're all some.
Are there any factors or stressors that seem to trigger your tics?
Actually, I've been balanced. My sleep is very, wake up, I had a bad headache, and, I think it'd be a lot to do with me being aroused,
Yeah. So the reason I'm doing this podcast is, I was pretty plugged into the Tourette's community when I was a little kid, but as I grew up, I just kind of traveled solo, so to speak. I lost touch with that community, and now I want to reconnect. Have you had or kept up with a support community? And regardless, do you think it's important to do so?
Actually, the community that I'm affiliated with, I talking to her nation and all that, and people try to, and we're a small community, I would say. With the cure, it's very hard, so we either rely on spreading awareness, education. We have some, so I try to stick with a community like Tourette's, but I broaden the horizons where, I try to be myself,
And what is the biggest thing that you want to know, or that you want people to know about Tourette syndrome? What do you think is a big misconception or something that the public just doesn't understand?
Well, I think spreading awareness is very big. One thing with Tourette's people don't know is more than just vocal tics, more than just you really hurt yourself and you get into an accident. So people got to know that. It's no joke. People might joke around and all that. That's fine. But you know what? You never know when you draw the line.
Yeah, when you said people joke around from that, that's kind of an interesting point because, I've seen stand-up comedians make Tourette's jokes, and they're doing it in a way where they don't really understand what it is. Just kind of like what you said, it's not just swearing, it's not just vocal tics, it's not just it's a whole spectrum of different things. Have you been in a situation where you've seen another stand-up comedian make jokes like that are kind of inappropriate?
No, not with Tourette's. No, I heard if you don't have something like, if you're making a Tourette joke, Tourette's, it's really hard. So if you have cancer or something, if you struggle with cancer, it's fine. If you have Tourette's, struggle with Tourette's, it's fine. Mm-hmm. So I try to move off stage. People are like, wow, I didn't know about Tourette's.
Yeah.
People don't know about Tourette's. It's great with A, make people laugh, and B, also spread awareness of Tourette's, So we need the more education, the better,
Yeah, absolutely. And like the laughter part of it is huge. I mean, that's between, comedy and music. I mean, those are the two most receptive things when it comes to, communicating a message or piping a message to people. Do you see, after you do stand up and after you sort of inject that material into your performance, do people seem pretty roundly receptive? I mean, do you think your message is hitting with people?
Actually, the audience is very big. So when they're off stage, people come up to me all the time and they're like, "Oh, I know that Tourette's. I know do you actually battle that?" No, people approach me all the time. And as the show is very big, so I hit home with them. To around Tourette's, I educate people. Mm-hmm. They have something, was inside out. I don't know. So, though, I would say yes, that question. I try to take my experience Tourette's and try to share the knowledge with the world,
And your motivational speaking, what kind of groups do you go to?
Well, I spoke at like two schools, and one school, I delivered a strong message. I did comedy. I did comedy to that level, and also, I talked to like 700 and something kids, and also, this other girl got me a couple classes, and I went there for like 7 hours. Talked to like class to class, and talk about my comedy and who I met, and about Tourette's and how I had saved and all that, and my true experience dealing with Tourette's,
Yeah. Well, so the book you wrote, could you tell us a little bit more about that and like when you decided to write a book and why?
Yes. The book is called How God Saved Me, My Special Story. The reason why I wanted to write the book is, I wanted to share my true life story with the world. I wanted to say how this one guy wished me, I lived an agricultural life, how I grew up and all that, how I drank all the time, I smoked all the time, went out all the time, and how, I saved, and how I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, I do nothing, so work out, eat better, and I want people to know that Tourette's is no joke. I deal with that on a daily basis. And, I want people to know about me. It's why I wrote the book, I want people to know about Tourette's.
So how can people find the book?
Yeah, it's self-published right now on like Lulu.com,
okay.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, my website.
Is there anything I didn't ask about that you think's important? Maybe something I might have missed or something you really want people to know?
I want people to know that, I get baptized years back, and I was blessed with, great family, great friends, and Gaza turns out the wrong to rights, and, I met a lot of famous people on my journey, and, it's start, not finish, and I want people to know that, for something, it's okay, don't give up, never give up. And I want people to know that my book's out there. I inspire you. It'll save lives. And websites out there. Once again, it's Chris Fox. comment and Chris Rock Tics on the website and Tourette Network, you know.
Well, Chris, man, thank you. It's really cool of you to talk. And, if you ever need anything from me, please don't hesitate. And hopefully, as this podcast grows, we can make some new acquaintances. And I just can't thank you enough for helping me out with that.
No, thank you. And it's a great way to get my story out, get my message out. And also, I met great people along the journey, and you're a great man. So how long you have Tourette's for?
So I'm 37. I was diagnosed when I was, I think 7 years old. And my tics, my earliest tics were definitely vocal tics. I would just make noises and,
Okay.
And this was, so this was in the 80s and there wasn't a whole lot of awareness of Tourette's at all. This is before, like 2020 did anything on it, before it was really on TV, before it became like a misunderstood pop culture kind of thing. And my vocal tics turned into sort of muscular tics. I would make, I would jerk my head, I would tense my muscles, and it, I never slept. I was up all night. I had severe attention issues and behavioral issues because I felt like I was misunderstood. And the kids at school, they would mess with me because they didn't get what was going on, and my parents didn't know what was going on either. So they took me to the doctor, and I don't know how, the memory kind of blurs, but eventually they diagnosed me with Tourette's, and they tried, a ton of different medications on me. Nothing really worked all that well. There were some side effects, there were just, it wasn't a great experience. And my tics kept changing. They kept fluctuating. And when I got into my teens, it kind of eased out a little bit. And then when I got, it just kind of calmed down. But then when I graduated high school and I got into college, it picked back up. And I think it was kind of like a stress trigger.
Do you have Tourette's now or no?
Yeah, I still do. I still deal with it every day. And it's about as bad as it ever was.
Wow.
I still have the tics where I clench my muscles and I jerk my head, and it's kind of awkward to bring up in a conversation without them asking me about it. So it's kind of like, when do I tell them? How do I tell them? So yeah, I still deal with it every day, but I feel like there are some positives mixed in because I feel like it kind of helped me, in terms of managing things in my life and the creative side. And I feel like a lot of people with Tourette's are very creative.
Yes. What do you take for going to bed? Because you can sleep that great.
Oh, what do I take?
Yeah.
I haven't done much medication for sleeping lately, but I was taking, like trazodone just to kind of calm my brain down for a little bit.
What about melatonin?
Yeah, I've tried melatonin. It helps a bit, but it doesn't help me enough.
Okay.
But it definitely helps.
Benadryl I take.
Oh, you take Benadryl?
Yeah, my doctor primary said take that and Benadryl, the melatonin Benadryl. I don't know how many milligrams. He didn't really say,
Yeah. I've tried Benadryl before with those like I think there are 50 milligram capsules. Maybe it's 25. I can't remember, but yeah, that definitely helps a bit. But I always find myself waking back up. Lately, though, and I don't know why, I've been sleeping great.
What, you take trazodone?
Not anymore. I'm not taking anything anymore. But the thought keeps crossing my mind to go back to the doctor and just talk about what's available now. Because as far as just medication in general to deal with Tourette's, it's been a long time since I've taken anything, several years. And I think that was mainly because I just wanted to kind of like just give it a try and see how I could do with no medication and see if I could manage myself. And I've had some ups and downs with that. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. It just kind of depends on what's happening in my life. If work is hectic and stressful, then I'm going to be ticking a lot more. If things are going really well, then maybe I'll be ticking, but it's not going to bother me as much.
Oh.
Yeah.
So how'd your family how to deal with that?
They it's kind of funny because when it came out that I had Tourette's, but when I was a kid, the local newspaper did an article about me having Tourette's. And they quoted my mom as saying that sometimes it made her want to jump out of a window. So,
Yes.
they were really, really, really good parents, and they stuck with me, and they made sure I got all the help I needed. But you could definitely tell that it took a toll on them, just having to deal with my behavioral issues and just never sleeping. I was just up all night. I would keep them up. So it took a toll.
What did you do for during tics at night? Oh no, like sleeping.
Yeah,
for sleep.
Yeah, it's kind of weird when things are really quiet. So if I'm just in the dark and things are quiet, I almost feel like I have to like fill that void with something. I have to listen to a podcast or put on some music or something like that won't hold my attention too much, but is enough to kind of fill the background. Because if it's too quiet, then I'm going to start ticking, I'm going to start clenching my muscles, and I'll just wake myself right up, and I'll have to find something else to do, like read a book or something like that, just to try to calm me back down.
Yeah, actually, my employer, they don't know about Tourette's. One of my employees, he said how to hike. I had harassed, but I work for a Costco wholesale, and they harassed me a lot. They bullied me because I know I Tourette's, and my GM got fired. I would say about a month or something ago. So no one knew I Tourette's. It's all a joke. So people know that battle, the real battle.
Yeah, it's a lot to have inside. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we all. I'm sorry if you done me, and so I mean, it's hard. I try to spread awareness. I try to do what I can do. I can't do it all. I try to do what I can do, and do my comedy. I make people laugh. I tell people about my battle with Tourette's, and I try to educate people, and also my book, my true life story. I want people to know that. They have disability also inside out. No, it's okay. My Tourette's was jokes. They used to laugh all the time. But I didn't care. But now I do. It's not how you start, it's how you finish,
Yeah. Well, you're doing it the right way because, I mean, comedy works. It's hard to really get it done with anger. And it's, you're a positive force, and I really applaud what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. That means a lot. I try.
All right. Thanks so much to Chris Fox for his time and for being the very first person to really give this podcast some encouragement. He was there at the beginning, and that encouragement has continued since the launch. Chris, really appreciate it. By the way, that was Chris in the clip at the very beginning of this episode, performing at Caroline's on Broadway, famous stand-up venue, and I'll post links to entire performances with Chris in the show notes at tourettespodcast.libsyn.com. It's Libsyn. Reactions, thoughts, ideas, anything, send them to me, tourettespodcast@gmail.com. And I'm still encouraging this. Record your comments into a voice memo on your smartphone and send that memo to me. Again, tourettespodcast@gmail.com. That way it can be your voice on the show when you have feedback. But obviously, straight up written emails are always welcomed, and I love everyone I get. Just keep it coming. I always get to the end of each episode feeling like I'm forgetting something, but my final thought is always, I guess, thank you for all the support and help and advice and encouragement. Being serious, 2018 has been an awesome year. Let's keep it going. Can't do it without your help and support. So the one last thing I'll ask is if you've enjoyed a particular episode, you can do one of two things. One is to explain what you enjoyed in the body of an iTunes review, a friendly iTunes review. Thanks to everybody who's already done that. Or just share that particular episode with people you know or people you think would benefit from hearing it, via Facebook, Twitter, whatever you got. Share that episode with people you think need to hear it. I can't thank you enough for that support. The Tourette's podcast comes out every Friday, at tourettespodcast.libsyn.com. That's the hosting site. You can find it on iTunes and pretty much any podcast app out there. We'll talk to you next time. This is Ben.